Over the past month or so, the angle has been telling you that there's virtually no distance between the mobs in Portland and Seattle trying to burn down federal buildings and the Democrats on Capitol Hill. And once again, they've proved our point. For several hours today, we saw the mobsters at work. But they weren't outside the building. They were inside, verbally, viciously attacking one of the most well-respected legal minds in America, our Attorney General, Bill Barr.
Shame on you, Mr. Barr.
Can I just say, Mr.
Shame on you.
You have consistently undermined democracy, undermined the Constitution, and undermined the health, safety, and well-being of the American people.
When you all came here and brought your top staff, you brought no black people. That, sir, is systematic racism.
Your failure to respect the role of peaceful protest in this country is a disgrace. It's un-American.
Mr. Barr, I just asked for a yes or no, so let me just tell you, I'm starting to lose my temper.
Federal
this is
government.
my time, and I control it.
I introduced H.Res. 1032, which would require this committee to investigate your conduct as Attorney General and determine whether you should be impeached.
For the record, Barr's character, his reputation, his credentials are unimpeachable. I can't say the same for those folks. Now, I certainly couldn't say the same for any of the Democrat loudmouths hurling insults at him. Now, lest you forget what's been happening in major American cities, here's a reminder.
We will prevail!
Get off the property, hop right over there. That's where you push it from the road.
Heads up.
The Democrats on the Judiciary Committee today, however, need you to see something very different.
And the protesters aren't mobs. They are mothers and veterans and mayors.
We've seen mothers and we've seen veterans who were peacefully protesting, not threatening the federal courthouse, beaten and gassed.
And the vast majority of the protesters are peaceful.
Most of the protests have been peaceful, Mr. Barr. You know that.
Now, we have right now in this country what appears to be a very organized effort by thousands of people across the country to create chaos and undermine our faith in the rule of law. And the Democrats, you watch them today, they just do not care. Now, they're either willfully and purposefully ignoring the dangers to our entire system, or they're willing to let it all burn just to beat Donald Trump. Now, Barr, who's seen a lot in his career, could hardly believe what was unfolding.
A member of this committee, regardless of your political views, should condemn violence against federal officers. I see some of these Latin American countries in Central America where the police are very, very brave because the gangs they're trying to deal with go to their houses and kill their families. You never think that could happen here, but you could never think some of the stuff we're seeing today could ever happen here.
But it is happening here. And it's happening because Democrat mayors, governors, senators, and those congressmen have made a concerted decision to side with the very radicals who are threatening the lives of innocent Americans. They're doing it on interstate freeways, on bridges, in federal buildings, and frankly, anywhere where rioters gather.
Since when is it okay to try to burn down a federal court? If someone went down the street to the Prettyman Court here, that beautiful courthouse we have right at the bottom of the hill, and started breaking windows and firing industrial-grade fireworks in to start a fire, throw kerosene balloons in and start fires in the court, is that okay? Is that okay now? No, the U.S. Marshals have a duty to stop that and defend the courthouse, and that's what we are doing in Portland.
Now, make no mistake, this is no longer the Democrat Party of Bill Clinton. It's not even the party of Barack Obama. This is the party of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, the Squad. This is the party of Antifa. This is the party of radical anarchists and revolutionaries who'll commit any crime against any person or any piece of property in order to get their way. And what's stunning to watch is that these domestic terrorists have become, in their own way, an active feature of the Biden campaign. Got to keep up the chaos, try to provoke a reaction from federal law enforcement, all to affect the outcome of a presidential election. And Judiciary Committee Democrats are taking cues from these despicable people, performing for a television audience, attempting to carry out what was the equivalent of reputational assassination of Bill Barr.
Have you now called for law enforcement to stop using these chemical irritants on protesters? Yes or no?
Pepper spray?
Yes.
No.
No?
I think it's a very important non-lethal option.
For protesters?
No, for rioters.
That was my question. For protesters?
No, for rioters.
Yes. Sir, America was founded on the principles of free speech.
When people resist law enforcement, they're not peaceful.
Reclaiming my time. I'm surprised at your lack of respect for a member of Congress.
I laughed out loud in my kitchen when I saw that today. The gentlelady was treated with more deference in that exchange than she deserved. She took her 5 minutes to launch a personal attack on a man with an impeccable record. Like her colleagues, she dissembled, distorted, and demonized for purely political ends. And her little charade for the cameras isn't just an example of conduct that is boorish and rude, but it's an insult to the integrity and history of the entire House of Representatives.
What am I supposed to say to my constituents when they ask me if the government has done everything in its power to protect their loved ones from dying?
I would tell them that managing this kind of thing requires a lot of difficult choices and weighing different consequences.
I'm not going to lie. I am not going to lie to my constituents. I am going to tell them that President Donald Trump and the Attorney General working together are letting Americans die needlessly because of political reasons.
Is it permissible for a member of this committee to accuse the sitting Attorney General of the United States of murder? Because that's what we just heard.
The members control the time.
Mr. Chairman.
To say whatever they want? What about rules of decorum?
Rules of decorum? Those were unfortunately out the window a long time ago. And after all their preening and strutting and overcharged emoting, the Democrats sought to deprive Barr his one brief moment of humanity.
I have 2 children who are cancer survivors, so I feel very strongly about this issue as a matter of policy. And I believe that the president's made clear that he will ensure that
Sir, please answer my question. Will you stop playing politics with Americans' health care in the middle of a pandemic?
Everyone should understand where we are. As mob violence consumes the country, we're in the middle of this COVID crisis. Democrats on Capitol Hill prefer to berate the chief law enforcement official in the country and float far-left conspiracy theories rather than working with him to restore order and maybe just give people a little hope. And why are Democrats doing this? Why was there not a single reasoned question from even one of them today? Because they know that AOC and the squad will destroy them if they deviate from the far-left playbook for just a millisecond. The Democrats are more terrified of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez +3 because they're worried about her endorsing a primary challenger. They're worried more about that than what any reasonable American thinks. Ever since the impeachment effort failed, the Democrats have jumped on one crazy theory after another. Barr is a thoughtful and dedicated civil servant. He came out of retirement not because he wanted something on his resume. He's already done everything. He did it because he has a profound sense of duty to this country. He and the American people deserve better. And don't imagine that Biden is going to stop the lawlessness in our cities, by the way.
I'd be using local police as we did when we were in office. When there were riots and there was federal property at stake, we were able to take care of that. And we're able to take care of it by the use of, not, it wasn't as wide as this, obviously, the use of local police.
Oh, really? Here's what Obama and Biden accomplished in Baltimore. They did nothing except let Baltimore and St. Louis, Ferguson burn. And electing Biden, is going to make scenes like these play out in a neighborhood near you. And for those looking to, I don't know, for some comfort, some moderation, some sanity, Biden only offers an assurance to the far left and the AOC wing of his party.
If I'm elected and this passes, I'm going to be good to go down as one of the most progressive presidents in American history.
I'll bet. You're also going to be good to go down as one of the most manipulated and passive presidents in American history. My goodness. Think of Bill Barr and what he had to endure today, and then think of Biden running the show. Oh, sorry, whoever his vice president and the old Obama alums running the show. God help us.